Shipboard Systems Matrix Hypermedia Platform. The Shipboard Systems Matrix Hypermedia Platform was developed in response to a request for proposal issued by the U.S. Navy Surface Warfare Officer School. The school is located in Newport, Rhode Island. It is an entry-level school for ensigns who have just received a commission, and its mission is to ready seabound warriors to serve on surface combats as officers, enlisted engineers, and enlisted navigation professionals in order to fulfill the Navy's mission to maintain global maritime superiority. The Shipboard Systems Matrix, or known as the Threat Matrix, requires that the ensigns be able to recognize a surface warfare ship by visual profile, to be able to detail its operational capabilities, its offensive and defensive systems, and ultimately be able to classify the ship as threat, no threat. A needs analysis, task analysis was conducted, which indicated that the ensigns were expected to memorize the threat matrix. They were to memorize it independently with no formal instructional time or content given to them, and they were expected to memorize it within 6 months or 2 terms of reporting to the Surface Warfare Officer School. And finally, as a test of that mastery, they were to demonstrate mastery on a 100-item multiple choice assessment administered by the Surface Warfare Officer School. The learner characteristics revealed by the needs analysis is these were newly commissioned ensigns. They primarily had undergraduate coursework in STEM subjects. They were highly motivated to succeed in this task. Their success and ability to operate as officers on surface warfare ships is tied into this task, and they've had minimal previous exposure to the threat matrix content. Performance gap revealed by the needs analysis is the current performance is 74% on the 100-item multiple choice assessment, and the Surface Warfare Officer School's desired performance would be greater than 80% on the same assessment. The needs analysis concluded that the performance gap is an instructional problem and it can be addressed through an instructional intervention. A performance objective that was developed by both the staff of the Surface Warfare Officer School and the instructional designers resulted in the following performance objective. Given the Naval Institute Guide to Combat Fleets of the World and the Shipboard Systems Matrix Multimedia course, the Swastok Naval Ensigns and USMC Second Lieutenants will independently learn within 6 months the Shipboard Systems Matrix or Threat Matrix and demonstrate mastery of the Threat Matrix by scoring greater than 80% on a 100-item multiple choice assessment administered by the Surface Warfare Officer School. The following design plan was developed in response to the needs analysis. A Canvas learning management system platform was chosen to deliver the content. It is module-based. Within each of the modules, text lessons, multimedia lessons, and formative assessments can be delivered. Mastery paths can be set up within the modules and between the modules. That is, the ensigns have to follow a specific sequence and demonstrate mastery on a previous activity prior to moving on to the next activity. There is the ability to have structured remediation based on the results of formative assessments, and summative assessments can be structured at the end of each of the modules. There is also an option for the user, that is the ensigns and second lieutenants, to curate lesson media. There is finally an option to gamify the modules to increase ensign engagement, and finally an ability to secure the platform for the protection of classified information. The following design module organization was developed. The modules would be organized in the following fashion. Classes of cruise ships would be one module, aircraft carriers, cruisers, destroyers, frigates, and other classes. Within the classes of surface ships, there would be generic lessons, or lessons about generic aircraft carriers, cruisers, destroyers, frigates, and other classes, and their common operating and offensive and defensive capabilities. Once the ensigns are able to correctly identify the classes of ships, then they would move on to a detailed study of aircraft carriers and specific classes of aircraft carriers in the United States Navy, Allied navies, Russian navies, Chinese navies, and other USA adversaries. And within each of those classes of aircraft carriers, they would be expected to know the operational, offensive, and defensive capabilities of each of the ships. And this process would be repeated for cruisers, destroyers, frigates, and other classes. Here is a prototype of the Canvas Learning Management System platform. This is the home page, and it's organized the primary modules. These are clickable links that would take the ensigns to the appropriate modules for further study. The ensigns would start with classes of surface ships, move on to aircraft carriers, cruisers, destroyers, frigates, and other surface ships. This is an example of the organization of a module. This is classes of surface ships. There is a pre-test that tests the ensign's current knowledge of different surface warfare ships. And if they score high enough on the pre-test, then they can opt out of participating in these lessons and move on to detailed lessons on each of the classes of ships. Otherwise, there would be lessons on aircraft carriers, cruisers, battleships, frigates, and other surface ships. And finally, a post-test that would assess their mastery of their ability to differentiate between these classes of surface ships. This is an example of a content page that is common characteristics of aircraft carriers. So there is a text-based lesson, aircraft carrier generic definitions and information. There is a video describing generic aircraft carrier capabilities and utilization in surface warfare. And then there is a listing of aircraft carriers by country of service. An evaluation plan was conducted using the AEIOU model. The AEIOU model has the following components: accountability, effectiveness, impact, organizational, and unintended consequences. In conducting the evaluation plan, it was determined that all benchmarks and deliverable timelines are met. The effectiveness component would be drawn from scores on the SWAS administered terminal exam, satisfaction surveys given to the participating ensigns, and student analytics drawn from the Canvas Learning Management System platform on student usage and performance. The impact is primarily drawn from the score on the SWAS administered terminal exam. Organizational considerations were that the platform had to be available or accessible through media that was readily available to ensigns. The Canvas Learning Management System platform is readily accessible by the ensigns on cell phones, tablets, computers, both in shoreside duty stations and shipboard assignments. The other organizational consideration was whether or not classified content would be utilized or public domain content. And this is a consideration that determines the degree of securability that the Canvas Learning Management System has to utilize. And a possible unintended consequence, which would be assessed through conversations and consultations with both the ensigns and staff of SWAS, would be that there may be an increased ownership of the platform and the utilization of the platform because the ensigns been given course authoring privileges. That is, they have the ability to contribute content.